Okay, announcement. Your assignment 3 is graded. Make sure you check the comments.
Yeah.
Okay, assignment 3 should be pretty easy. And also ask a question early if you have them. Your quiz 7 will be open on eCampus tonight. Okay, let's see. I like coming to person class. I just out of town. Okay, cool. Yeah, just keep showing up. I think it's because there are a lot of professors saying that only a couple students show up every week, and some professors they prefer not to teach in person. And we went to the school, and then the school told the department head that they might make the changes for those classes that doesn't have a lot of attendance. I think we're pretty good. Sometimes more people show up, sometimes people do online. Maybe we'll just do like a poll later if the school asked again. All right. And your exam 2 is towards the end of this month. I think you have about 20 days, right? 20 days. So make sure you study for that and ask a question early. All right. So today we're gonna kind of finish up chapter 7. We're gonna talk about close relationships. We'll talk about what love is, the triangular model of love, attachment styles, and some other things if we have time. So what is love? What do you guys think? When we talk about love, like what do you usually think about? Or what do you think love is? Any idea? Yeah?
I feel like attachment or like relationships, whether that be like family, friends, or like someone like special.
Uh-huh. Like relationship, like either romantic relationship or family relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So sometimes when we talk about love.
Great, kind of.
Hmm?
'Cause, like love can be like a lot of different things.
Oh yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's why I asked you guys, what do you think love is? Any idea?
I think
Uh-huh.
in some definitions it's a feeling. I think in other definitions it's a commitment.
Very good. So we can use love to describe feelings, right? Yeah, very good. Commitment. So sometimes we use the term love to express our emotions. Like we feel loved. Let's see. Feeling particularly connected to someone. So yeah, a feeling. Very good. Very good. It can also be an action or a behavior. So you said that you're loving someone, right? You love something. That's an action. Sorry, mute my phone. It can also be arousal, your physiological arousal, like your heartbeat, your respiration, like your sweat, a lot of stuff. It can also be a relationship, like what you just said, like you are in love with someone, or you have a family bond with your family members. So in this class, we are going to focus on love as a relationship, but it can also be all other things. We might talk about love as emotion later on, but right now we're going to focus on a relationship. Okay, so there are, according to the triangular model of love, we have 3 main components of love. The first one is intimacy. This is your emotional closeness, your bonding, sharing with the other person. And then we have passion. That is the strong, intense feelings towards the other person. You're longing to be with the other person, and your physiological arousal. Those are passion. Then we have commitment. That's your decision, your commitment to love and maintain a long-term relationship with the other person. Okay. Are we good on this? No question? Okay, good. Very good. So here is the triangular model of love. You have the three components at the corner. So intimacy, passion, and commitment. If you only have liking, did someone ask a question? Okay. Go back. Okay. Okay. You know you can download the slides, right? And there are more notes in the PowerPoint slides, so it's worth to go back to read it. All right. Okay. So if you only have intimacy, we call this type of love liking. And if you only have passion, we call it infatuation. If you only have commitment, we call it the empty love, because you only have commitment, you don't have anything else. However, if we combine passion and intimacy, we'll have romantic love. If we combine passion and commitment, we have, I don't know how to pronounce this, fatuous love? Cool. And then if we combine intimacy and commitment, we call it the companionate love. But if you have all three of them, Sternberg would call it the consummate love. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, thanks. So this is according to Sternberg. It's the person who developed this model. So now I want you to give me some example for each type of love. You don't necessarily need to memorize the combination, like what they mean, but I want you to be able to differentiate them. So if I give you an example, you would need to know what type of love this is. You don't need to recall it, but you need to recognize it. Does that make sense? Good. Okay, so liking, what kind of relationship is liking only? You only have intimacy. Yes?
I guess friends.
Friends? Yeah. You're intimate, you don't feel passion, and maybe a little bit commitment, maybe new friends. You don't know if you're committed yet, or you haven't developed that passion yet. Okay. Friends, and then infatuation. When you only have passion, what kind of examples do we have? Friendship. Okay. Infatuation, only passion. Yeah.
Could that be like a friends with benefits type of thing?
Yeah. So like one night stands. Yeah, and friends with benefit. There's only passion. There's no commitment. You might not even have intimacy. Very good. Romantic love is pretty straightforward, like partners. So I'm not going to ask you for an example for that. What about empty love? When you only have commitment.
Perhaps like single mothers who have to have a relationship with the father, but commitment via the child. If they don't love each other, there's nothing.
Gotcha. So for a single mother who needs kind of support, either financial support or some kind of social support, but not necessarily love, that will be commitment. Very good. Also, a lot of marriages, they're kind of dead. They don't have any intimacy or passion. It's just commitment, maybe because of their names, their children. That would be empty love. Oh, up there or?
Oh no, I was gonna ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can you describe a little bit more of the difference between intimacy and passion? Because I think like.
Oh yeah, of course. So intimacy is when you feel close to another person. So that's when you only watch Netflix together.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So.
Alright.
Because usually like I think of intimacy and passion as kind of going hand in hand. When you're intimate with someone, like because you think about being intimate with someone, it makes me think of like.
Passion?
Yeah, I mean, but you can be intimate with someone.
Not necessary, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe because like when you're, I don't know, when people are younger, maybe they can differentiate the two. But when you get older and when you have a long-term relationship, you can't feel the difference. Yeah.
And then with passion, I guess does passion include more of a physical component?
Not more of a physical component, but like intimacy, it also has physical components, but passion is like a more intense level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, probably. I don't know the story, but
That's the Shakespeare book. where
yeah, I know the general story. Like they died at the end,
They met
but
in like 3 days and
Uh-huh.
they like died for each other. 'Cause they
oh, okay.
Yeah, they're both teenagers. I think she's 14 and he's 19, something like that.
Okay. And then
It was a weird story.
I think it depends on how they describe their feeling towards each other. Sometimes when you only have commitment, like friends going to battles, they might kind of like decide to sacrifice for each other, and that will be commitment. It really depends on how they describe the relationship. But yeah, very good. Any other questions? Uh-huh.
Does it have to be like a romantic relationship to be consummate love, or can it just be like a really, really close friend?
For the consummate love.
Yeah, for all three.
So here, Sternberg is mainly talking about romantic relationship, but I think it can also generalize to other types of love. Yeah. I think someone asked a question here. Arranged marriage, maybe. I think that was talking about commitment, right? Okay. Okay, very good. And then we have I keep forgetting. Companionate. Is that how you pronounce it?
Companion.
Companionate. Right, thank you. Companionate love. So when you have intimacy and commitment, what kind of relationship? Mm-hmm.
This be like an older couple who's been married for like 50 years.
Older couples. Oh yeah, yeah.
Or, like,
That's
close.
sure.
Yeah. And they might not have passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, that's actually like a stereotype for older couples. But if you really look into the love literature, a lot of older couples, they feel passion, like, and it's fascinating. If you are interested, take a look at that. I think there are also documentaries made by BBCs. Very interesting.
I know,
But-
like,
Mhm.
I think a lot of maybe like middle-aged
Mhm.
marriages, or like maybe like once they've had some kids and stuff. Like I know a
For
lot
this?
of folks. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
say they're confused
Yeah.
Because they're like, we're kind of out of the honeymoon, like this passionate
Mhm.
phase that we had. Now
Yep.
we're moving into like we're committed to each other because we're married to one another, and we're just like friends. We're good friends. And I like that.
Yeah. Hopefully it's more than friends.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, just see them as like a companion.
Yeah, of course. So according to research, people's passion, their level of passion, goes down very quickly after a year or two after their marriage. So, yeah. Okay, and then we have. Did we talk about fatuous love? I don't think so. So passion and commitment. What kind of love is this? or what kind of relationship represent this? Yeah.
I feel like that might be like the high school couple that gets married their senior year.
Ah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
They're super passionate and then they just decide to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good example. Very good. Yeah, I was thinking like the movie characters, a lot of times they just met and then they're super passionate and then they were like, let's get married. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Oh, yeah, you have a
Be
comment.
careful. Oh, comments? Thank you. But to use love, whirlwind marriage. I don't know that word. Is it just like you married very quickly?
It's like highs and lows. It's like people who are like very invested in each other, so they'll go like from very high highs
Uh-huh.
to like lows.
And it happens very quickly.
Okay.
So like a wind whipping around.
Like
Okay.
they're either obsessed with each other or they hate each other.
Ah, okay. Like those bipolar type of love. Like they're being very extreme. Okay. Yeah. Okay, very good. And this type of love is what Sternberg think is the best. Like it lasts the longest. You feel most satisfied and happy in that relationship. All right. Any questions on this? We good? Okay. Make sure you know how to differentiate them when you see an example or a situation. Okay, very good. So now I want you to answer this question. You don't have to answer it out loud. So which description best fits your relationships? I'll just let you read it. When you finish reading, just like give me a hint. So, okay. All right, cool. So you can find like a description that best fits you, right? Or you just don't know. Okay, you kind of know, right? You have a pretty good idea of this. Okay, so how many of you are familiar with attachment theory or attachment types? Okay, good. Very good. So this is more about personality psychology. We have another class that's only about personality. But a lot of times, social and personality psychology is grouped together. Like my major right now in grad school is social and personality psychology. So we study them together. And I think they are very closely related. So based on the attachment theory, is they're studying infants and their primary caregivers relationship, and they study how's that affecting your adult attachment style. It's like you can like the description that I just showed you, you know what this is, and you're not thinking about your relationship with your primary caregiver, right? You're just thinking about your general relationship. So that's the attachment theory. Okay. So attachment, this is a deep, affectionate, close, and enduring emotional bond and relationship with a primary caregiver. Sometimes we use attachment to describe your relationship or your bond with other people, but when we are talking about attachment theory, it's more about infant and primary caregiver. Okay. So different parenting styles will lead to very different attachment styles for the kids. I'm going to show you some. Have you seen this, like the baby instructions? So, yeah, I love this one. it's like how you behave or how you interact with the kids really influence their personality in the future. Okay. All right. So what they did, like how do they study children's attachment style, is they're using the strange situation study. So this is conducted by Mary Ainsworth, and they are trying to determine attachment styles from babies' response to strangers when they were separated and then reunite with their mother. Now I'm going to show you a video, see how it works. It's a pretty ingenious idea how to find out people's attachments. Okay. So pay attention to the study design, like what's control variables and what's not, and then their dependent variables. It's pretty interesting. Wait, is there sound?
1969, American psychologist Mary Ainsworth gave developmental psychology a new procedure for studying attachment in infants. She called it the strange situation classification, and it's widely referred to as simply the strange situation. As an adult, you know when you've formed an attachment with someone. You know how it feels, and you know how to express your feelings in words. However, when it comes to babies and young children, they haven't yet developed these skills, and therefore researchers must turn to more subtle techniques, such as the strange situation, which measures the security of an attachment in 1 to 2-year-olds. A 20-minute participatory observation, during which the researcher observes the infant's behavioural responses to a series of scenarios. Ainsworth's strange situation includes 8 stages, each lasting roughly 3 minutes. To start with, the mother, baby and researcher are all together in the room, a small, neutrally coloured space with some toys for the baby to play with. The experimenter leaves after around a minute, and the mother and baby are alone for approximately 3 minutes. In this stage, researchers are watching to see whether the child is confident to explore the new environment, or whether she stays close to the mother. A stranger joins the mother and baby in the room. The researchers record the baby's response to this unfamiliar newcomer, who is left alone with the baby when the mother leaves the room. At this stage, the researchers are observing the baby's behaviour for signs of separation anxiety. 3 minutes later, the mother returns, and the researchers observe for the baby's reunion response. The stranger leaves the room. A few minutes more, and the mother leaves the room too, leaving the baby alone for the first time in the experiment. The next person to enter the room is the stranger, and finally, after 3 minutes, the mother returns and the stranger leaves. All in all, a perfectly strange situation for all involved. So, what were the researchers measuring? When the mother was in the room with the baby, they scored the infant's behaviour on 4 measures: proximity and contact seeking, contact maintaining, avoidance of proximity and contact, and resistance to contact and comforting. The baby's exploratory behaviours were also recorded as she explored the environment. Ainsworth reported that infants display one of 3 attachment types. Securely attached infants showed distress when separated from their mother, were avoidant of the stranger when alone, but friendly in the presence of their mother, and were happy when the mother returned from outside the room. 70% of children studied fell into this category. 15% of children demonstrated an ambivalent attachment with their mother. These children showed intense distress when the mother left the room and demonstrated a significant fear of the stranger. When the mother returned to the room, ambivalent children approached the mother but rejected contact. Ainsworth reported that a final 15% had an avoidant attachment style. Such infants show no interest when the mother leaves the room and play happily with the stranger. When the mother returns, avoidant children barely seem to notice. In 1990, Main and Solomon added that a very small percentage were inconsistent in their behaviors and defined this attachment style as disorganized. Ainsworth's caregiver sensitivity hypothesis suggests that differences in infant attachment styles are dependent on the mother's behavior towards the baby during a critical period of development. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and
All right, so there are 4 attachment styles, and don't worry about the percentage. It's kind of outdated, and I'm gonna give you a more updated percentage of American babies. So secure attachment, that's when the infant or the child has high quality, they have dependable relationship with their attachment figures. So either their mom, dad, or other primary caregiver. So they're stressed when they're separated from the primary caregiver, and they're avoidant of stranger unless the primary caregiver was there with them. They're happy to see their caregiver after the separation, and it's about 65% of American children. They have secure attachment. Any questions on the secure attachment? Good? Okay. And then we have the insecure or avoidant attachment. That's when they don't care when they were separated from their primary caregiver. And they can easily play with strangers. They tend to ignore or even avoid the caregiver when they return after the separation. And they may occur as a result of unresponsive caregiver. So if the kids are in the house and they cry for attention or help, but the parents, they don't care, they just let them cry, eventually they might develop this kind of attachment. Is that they know their cry will not draw attention from their parents, so they start to ignore them. Does that make sense? For the secure one, it's more likely when they cry for help and you were there. So they know that you are their safe haven. That's why they develop this secure attachment. Okay, and this is about 15% of American children. Next, we have the insecure, resistant, or we call it the ambivalent attachment style. Is this related to learned helplessness? Maybe. So it's kind of hard to study infants' learned helplessness, but I think they're related. Very good question. So for the insecure or the resistant or ambivalent attachment, the kids, they get really upset or angry when they're separated from their primary caregiver. And they have significant fear of strangers. They will get very angry at the caregiver when they return after the separation. And this could be the result of inconsistent caregiver availability. So sometimes when the baby cries for help, you respond to them. Sometimes you don't, which makes them insecure, ambivalent. Okay. And this is about 15% of the kids in the United States. And lastly is the insecure, disorganized attachment. That's when the baby's behavior is inconsistent. And sometimes they can be disoriented or disturbing. They may sit with They may sit with back to therapists or stare into space when approached, and they don't have consistent way of coping when they're separated with their primary caregiver. This may result of abusive homes where child has not developed strategies for getting needs met. For being abusive, it can be physically, or can be emotionally. Right. And this is less than 4% of the kids in the United States. All right. Any questions on the attachment types? So we only have one secure type, and then the others, they're all insecure. But within the insecure, we just have different subcategories like disorganized, resistant or ambivalent, or avoidant. So 3 different insecure attachments. All right, if we don't have any questions, we're going to go ahead. So question, how do you think attachment theory might lead to romantic attachment later in life? Do you think they are positively correlated? Yeah? Okay. Why do you think that? Why do you think it's long lasting? Yeah.
I think that it might have something to do with, like, if you got a lot of attention as a child, like, you're going to grow up wanting that same amount of attention.
Mhm.
So when you pursue a romantic relationship or attachment,
Yeah.
like, you're going to constantly want attention from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our personality is kind of long lasting and they're kind of consistent throughout life. It changes, but they're pretty stable. The reason for that is human babies compared to other like animal babies, they don't have a lot of skills. They're just vulnerable. So they use whatever they learn as infants, and they use that skills later on in adulthood. Does that make sense? It's kind of like trying to explain this this thing from evolutionary psychologist point of view. So, okay.
We do have a few comments.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Attachment with children and their caregiver is a necessary. Oh, actually, next time you can just unmute yourself. That might be quicker. And just in case I didn't know this. All right. It's necessary developmental process that helps us develop our ability to attach to romantic partners or even just friends when we get older. Both. So the correlation is positive, but not like super strong. It's moderate between your attachment towards your parents and your attachment towards your friends or romantic partners. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right. Okay, so what does this mean for a relationship as adults? So securely attached adults, they tend to have enduring, satisfying long-term relationships. And they're good partners for everyone. Like, it doesn't matter if your partner is insecure, being avoidant, or being resistant or disorganized. Securely attached adults are good partners for those people too. So avoidantly attached adults, they will feel uncomfortable being emotionally intimate. They're less satisfied with their relationships. And lastly, you have the anxiously attached adults. They usually jump into romantic relationships. They tend to be obsessive and preoccupied with their relationships. And they're less satisfied with their relationships. The pictures, they're just memes related to those type of adults. I don't know if you get it, but I found it funny. Right. So just to add a little details for the avoidant attached adults, they're the least likely to enter a relationship. It's kind of obvious because they're avoiding, right? And for the anxious or ambivalent attached adults, their relationships are most short-lived. So very short-term relationships. And they're most upset when their needs are not met in those relationships. Okay. Are we good on this slide? Okay. So questions? Like for all the stuff that we just talked about, any questions? Yeah.
So if someone knows that they're avoidant or anxious, like what are there any ways that they work through those things? Is it like therapy or counseling?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of therapists, psychologists that you can see, and then you will have like cognitive therapy, which is, I don't know if you guys taken clinical psychology here. Is their cognitive therapist is when they try to change the way you think. For example, the girl who was or the guy, that was just an example, who are anxious when their partner don't text them back, or when their partners didn't get home in time, they get super anxious. And cognitive therapy will help them to change their mind, change the patterns of thinking. For example, they might get anxious, they might think, oh, it's because they're in an affair, or they're seeing other guys or girls. And to change that thought is that they might have been in an accident, they might run into someone that they know, so they have a conversation. So it's trying to change their patterns of thinking. And then we also have behavioral therapies, is like changing the behavior, but not the thoughts. For example, people might get super mad when their needs are not met in their relationship, so they will be violent. They start to throw things, start to fight, and they're trying to correct those behaviors, but not necessarily their thoughts. We also have the cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called the CBT, and you're combining cognition and behavior into the therapies. And there are a lot of other therapies. Partner consultant is there. They try to make sure the communication is better between the two, and yeah, there are a lot more. So, yep. If they know what kind of attachment types they have, and then they want to improve their relationship, they want to get help, there are a lot of ways to do that. Pretty good. All right. Okay, so next, if you have been in a relationship, I want you to think about what are the keys to a successful romantic relationship, in your opinion, or what cause relationships to be unsuccessful. It doesn't have to be related to the book or anything. It can be your own conclusion or what you have read in other places. Yes?
I would say good communication and honesty.
Communication and honesty. Very good. So that's a key for the successful romantic relationship. I agree. I think communication is very important. Yeah. Trust. Yep. So yeah, if you can trust each other if you are being honest to each other. Very good. And you're being responsible, right? Yeah.
I think compassion and humility.
Compassion. Can you explain?
Yeah. So for compassion, I would say I think it goes with humility too, because I feel like relationships kind of show you just how selfish you are.
Mm-hmm.
They show you like where your desires are, where your wants are, and oftentimes you kind of have to die to some of those things to be in a successful relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The other person has those too.
Mm-hmm.
So if both of y'all are coming with compassion and humility, then you'll look to the other's interests and desires.
Yeah, so very good. That's a good point. We know that in some relationship they keep scores, right? And those kind of relationship tends to last shorter. So you don't want to be selfish or keeping scores on each other. I guess just try to be nice and enjoy. Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah, there's no correct answers. Just want to see what you guys think. What about the bad factors? Like what caused them to be unsuccessful? I guess the opposite of what you just said, right? Yeah. So there are four. Okay, sorry. Let me read this comment real quick. Could you repeat what attachment theory leads to romantic attachment later in life? Or why attachment theory? Oh, yeah, of course. So this is a hypothesis. It's just that human babies, they're vulnerable. They're not like wild animals babies. They grow up very fast and they can adapt to their society very fast. They can hunt their food. Human babies takes years for them to develop fully cognition, then learn how to behave, take years. So that's based on evolutionary hypothesis. No, psychologists is that they think human babies, they're using this kind of information with their primary caregiver as skills for their later life in adulthood. Does that make sense? Or if you can explain this better, please help me out with this, with Haley. Does it make sense, Haley? Okay, great. Yeah, this is my problem. Sometimes I know what it means, but when I try to put it in words, it's kind of hard. All right, very good question. So back to this, we have 4 horsemen for harmful relationship behaviors. One is criticism. Just don't criticize too much on the other partner. Defensiveness. Don't try to be super defensive all the time. If you did something wrong, admit it and then tell them, yeah, I'm going to improve, I'm going to change. And then stonewalling. That's when you don't communicate. I don't know if you have those kind of interaction, is when you get into arguments, you just stop talking. You don't even communicate. That's very bad. We also have contempt. This kind of, you look down on the other half. Does that make sense? Okay, very good. And then lastly, it's not one of the 4 horsemen, but it's also jealousy. That's very important. And there's a big gender difference between jealousy. Men and women, they are jealous for different reasons. And we're going to talk about that in emotions. So jealousy is more like an emotion topic. All right, any questions on those? Okay, we're good? Okay, so marriage and divorce. In the United States, 40 to 50% of marriage end in divorce, which is pretty high. And for people who remarried, they have a even higher divorce rate. For cohabitation, you have higher divorce rates too. For the children of divorced parents, like you grew up in divorced families, you have higher divorce rates. So it's kind of like a cycle. Yeah.
What do you mean by cohabitation?
Like when you live together, but you haven't committed yet. And then when you live together, you tend to find out the other person's problem than if you live separated. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Crazy high percentage. Yes, it's very high in the United States. I don't know why though. If you have a theory, please let me know. In some other countries, it's not as high as here.
I think there are some theories out there about
Uh-huh.
with more like feminist movements coming out,
Mhm.
women are feeling that they don't have to stay in a marriage where they are looked down upon.
Oh yeah.
There's also, there's more than just that, but
Yeah.
there's more movements towards taking care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
the individualistic culture.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. But I don't think that like divorce is the best solution for that kind of relationship. I think communication is better. Like tell the other side or tell the husband, the man, that you are not satisfied.
Yeah,
Like
and
what you
there's a
don't
certain
like.
stubbornness to it too, when people
Yep.
get set in their ways.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed there's been several articles where they're making fun of the new generations who
Uh-huh.
are waiting longer to get married.
Mm.
And
Okay.
it's, divorce lawyers are upset because the older generations are coming in less for divorce.
Mm.
Because they're waiting longer to get married, they're getting
Mhm.
to know the person better.
Yep.
Before they get married, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that divorce rate moves
Yep.
over time.
Yeah, that would be interesting. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly. So, when do marriages end? So 50% of all the divorces in the United States take place within the first 6 years of marriage, so early stage. And the most divorces occur between the second and third year of marriage. So I wanted to discuss this, but we're running out of time. So people live longer when they're in a relationship because you have social support. They just have longer life expectancy. Should people break up or divorce when they are unhappy? Well, that's pretty obvious. I'm going to just tell you my thought is that communication is the key. If you really are unhappy with your relationship, breaking up and divorce will bring you more satisfaction of life after divorce, but you never reach the peak when you're happy in that relationship. Does that make sense? So if this is a chart, people who are single, their satisfaction of life is probably here. And then when they happily married or happily in a relationship, it goes to very high, a peak, when you support each other. But when you're in a bad relationship, it goes all the way down. But after you divorce, it goes back up, but it never reach the peak. Okay, so just before you make decisions, think carefully. That's it. Have a good weekend.